man doesn't leave without a reason. He doesn't just wake up one morning and decide to walk away from something valuable. When a man truly cares, when he's invested, when he's given his time, energy, and loyalty, he doesn't abandon it on impulse. But if he reaches a point where he never looks back, you have to understand, he didn't make that decision overnight. He made it over time. Men process emotions differently. They don't always argue. They don't always express frustration the way women do. Instead, they observe, analyze, and internalize. He might sit in silence while feeling unappreciated. He might listen to the complaints while knowing his efforts are never enough. He might tolerate the small digs, the dismissive tone, the lack of respect, up to a point, but the moment he realizes that nothing he does will ever be good enough, that's when something inside him shuts off. And here's the painful truth. By the time he leaves, he has already been gone for a while. A man detaches long before he physically walks away. You think he left suddenly? No. He was slowly checking out for weeks, months, maybe even years. He gave chances. He ignored the signs. He hoped things would change. But then one day, he made a decision, and when a man makes a final decision, there's no reversing it. A man will endure a lot in silence before he walks away completely. He won't always explain why he's distant, why he stops texting first, why he doesn't seem as engaged in conversations. He won't always say, I feel unappreciated, or I feel like I'm constantly fighting a battle I can't win. Instead, he will pull away emotionally while still being physically present until one day he's not there at all. And that's when it hits. That's when the pain sets in. That's when you realize that no matter how much you cry, beg, or try to reach him, he won't come back. Because the truth is, men do not leave women they respect, value, and feel fulfilled with. They leave when they feel used, unheard, or like their efforts don't matter. A man will fight for a woman who fights for him in the right way, not with arguments, not with drama, not with constant tests and games, but with support, understanding, and appreciation. The moment he feels like he's giving more than he's getting, like he's pouring into an empty cup, he starts questioning if he's in the right place. And when that thought lingers long enough, it turns into a decision. The hardest part about losing a man who never looks back is knowing that you had his loyalty, his love, his protection, and somewhere along the way you made him feel like it wasn't enough. Maybe not intentionally, maybe not in obvious ways, but men don't need loud disrespect to feel unvalued. It's in the small things, the way you dismiss his ideas, the way you don't acknowledge his sacrifices, the way you challenge his leadership at every turn. A man may not say anything at first, but he remembers everything. And by the time he leaves, it's too late. He won't argue. He won't explain. He won't give another warning. He will walk away and never turn back. Because when a man truly decides to move forward, he does it with full conviction. And no amount of regret, apologies, or realization will make him return to something he already grieved before he ever walked away. A man will tolerate many things in life, but there are two things he will never compromise on: respect and peace. He might put up with challenges, he might endure stress in his career, he might even take risks that push him to his limits. But when it comes to his personal life, he wants one thing above all: a place where he can breathe. If a man doesn't feel respected, if he feels like he's constantly in a battle instead of a partnership, he will check out emotionally long before he ever walks away physically. A high-value man doesn't stay where he feels drained. He spends his days fighting battles in the world, handling pressure, making decisions, and proving himself. The last thing he wants is to come home to another fight. If a woman brings more stress than peace, if every conversation feels like a competition, if every minor issue turns into an argument, he will start seeing her as a source of exhaustion instead of comfort. And when a man reaches that point, he begins to detach. Respect is not just about words. It's about how a man is treated every single day. The way you look at him when he speaks, the way you react when he makes a decision, the way you support him when he's struggling, it all adds up. A man doesn't need you to worship him, but he needs to feel valued, heard, and trusted. If he constantly feels like he has to prove himself just to be worthy of basic appreciation, he will begin to question why he's even there. And once that question enters his mind, it's already too late. A man does not want to spend his days defending himself in his own home. He doesn't want to feel like he's walking on eggshells, afraid that the next small thing he says or does will trigger a fight. He doesn't want to feel like his woman sees him as an opponent instead of a partner. A man's nature is to protect and lead, but if every decision he makes is met with resistance, if he feels constantly criticized, if he feels like his words are dismissed or belittled, he will start to feel like he's better off alone. Men don't commit to women who compete with them, they commit to women who complement them. There's nothing more attractive to a man than a woman who knows how to balance strength with softness, independence with trust, and intelligence with grace. A woman who can hold her own but doesn't feel the need to undermine him to prove her worth. A woman who knows how to argue without attacking, communicate without blaming, and support without controlling. That is the woman a man wants to build a life with. A man values his peace above all else. He will walk away from money, success, and even love if it costs him his inner peace. And if he feels like the woman in his life is constantly bringing chaos, unnecessary drama, and negativity, he will start to feel like she's not worth the fight. Because a man can love a woman deeply, but if she makes his life harder instead of better, he will leave. And when he leaves, he won't look back. Because the truth is, men don't marry the most beautiful woman. They don't marry the most exciting woman. They marry the woman who makes them feel calm, focused, and unstoppable. The woman who makes them feel like no matter what happens, they have a place to recharge, reset, and rise again. The woman who brings more solutions than problems, more warmth than coldness, and more trust than doubt. A man will always choose peace over passion if passion comes with too much destruction. He will always commit to the woman who makes him feel stronger, not weaker. And once he finds that, he will protect it with everything he has. But if he realizes that the only way to find peace is to walk away, he will do it without hesitation, and he will never regret it. A man might tolerate flaws, he might overlook imperfections, and he might even forgive mistakes, but the one thing he will never accept for long is a woman who drains him emotionally. A man is not looking for perfection, he is looking for a sense of stability, a foundation, a place where he feels like he can be himself without constant emotional turbulence. If a woman is emotionally weak, overly reactive, or unable to control her moods, she will eventually push him away, whether she realizes it or not. Men are problem solvers by nature. They handle stress differently than women. They don't express every frustration, they don't seek emotional validation in the same way, and they certainly don't respond well to constant emotional instability. A woman who is always overanalyzing, overreacting, and creating unnecessary problems turns herself into a burden rather than an asset. A man might try to endure it, he might try to be patient, but over time, the weight of emotional instability becomes too much to carry. A man does not want to feel like he is walking into a battlefield every time he comes home. If he feels like he has to watch every word he says to avoid triggering an emotional meltdown, if he feels like his peace is constantly being shattered by drama, accusations, or mood swings, he will start checking out. And once a man emotionally detaches, once he stops feeling like he can be himself around you, he is already gone, long before he ever walks away physically. A high-value man does not stay in a relationship where he feels mentally and emotionally exhausted. He does not want to be in a situation where he has to constantly explain himself, defend himself, or deal with unnecessary emotional chaos. He doesn't want to be with someone who turns minor issues into major arguments, who seeks validation through drama, or who lets her emotions control her actions instead of mastering them. A man doesn't leave a woman just because she has emotions. He leaves because of how she handles them. Every woman will have moments of frustration, insecurity, or doubt, but the difference between a woman a man stays with and a woman he leaves is emotional control. A woman who can express her feelings without attacking, who can handle stress without becoming destructive, who can communicate without blaming. That is the kind of woman a man will fight to keep. The reality is a man will always choose peace over passion if passion comes with too much emotional chaos. He will always commit to the woman who knows how to bring balance instead of disorder. If he feels like he is constantly in a situation where his energy is being drained, where he is always trying to fix problems that never should have existed in the first place, he will start seeing the relationship as a weight instead of a blessing. By the time a man leaves, he has already made peace with his decision. He has already gone through the emotions. He has already tried to fix things in his mind, and he has already detached. And that is why when he walks away, he doesn't look back. because to him, he has already given more than enough chances, more than enough patience, and more than enough effort. Once he realizes that his presence only brings more chaos instead of calm, he will walk away and he will never regret it. A man does not stay because he is forced to. He does not commit because of pressure, manipulation, or guilt. A high-value man stays because he wants to. And the only kind of woman who makes a man want to stay forever is the one who truly understands his nature, supports his mission, and brings undeniable value to his life. Men do not invest in liabilities, they build with assets. If a woman does not make his life better, if she does not add to his purpose, if she does not elevate him in some way, he will not see her as his future. A man is always thinking long term. Whether he says it or not, he is constantly evaluating, does she bring me peace? Does she support my vision? Does she make my life easier or harder? And if the answer leans towards stress instead of strength, he will start detaching. A woman does not keep a man by chasing him, by begging him to stay, or by making emotional demands. A man stays when he feels like he has something rare, something that makes him better, something that he would never want to lose. He stays when he looks at a woman and sees his future, not just his present. He stays when he feels understood instead of judged, appreciated instead of tolerated, and empowered instead of restricted. A man does not want to feel trapped in a relationship. He wants to feel motivated by it. The right woman inspires a man to push harder, to build more, to become stronger. She is not just a partner, she is his greatest advantage. She is the one he can trust, the one who sees his vision even when no one else does, the one who stands beside him instead of constantly standing against him. That is the kind of woman he commits to for life. A woman who makes a man feel free, not restricted, is the woman he will never walk away from. This doesn't mean letting a man do whatever he wants without standards. It means creating a relationship where he feels respected, trusted, and valued. A man who feels respected will naturally stay loyal. A man who feels trusted will naturally stay committed. A man who feels valued will naturally give more than he ever has to any woman before. But the moment a man feels caged, controlled, or drained, he starts to pull away. He starts to question whether he is in the right place. A man does not want to be in a situation where he constantly has to prove himself worthy or fight battles in his own home. A woman who understands this, a woman who knows how to balance strength with softness, independence with trust, and standards with love, is a woman who keeps a man's heart without force. The harsh truth is, if a man leaves and never looks back, it's because he saw no future with you. It's because he realized that no matter how much he gave, he was not receiving what he truly needed. And that realization is irreversible. Because once a man understands that walking away brings him more peace than staying, he will never regret his decision. The hard truth, but one that must be understood. A man doesn't leave a woman he truly values. He doesn't walk away from something that makes him feel respected, appreciated, and empowered. When a man leaves and never looks back, it's not because he never cared, and it's not because he didn't love. It's because at some point, he realized that staying was no longer an option. A man wants to feel wanted, not needed. He wants a woman who chooses him, not one who clings to him out of fear, insecurity, or desperation. The moment a man feels like he's being held onto out of need rather than desire, he starts losing attraction. A woman who is constantly seeking validation, begging for attention, or making him responsible for her happiness places a weight on a man that he is not willing to carry. No man wants to feel like he is a woman's entire emotional world. He wants to feel like he is adding to a life that is already strong and complete. Men are drawn to confidence, self-respect, and emotional stability. A woman who knows her worth doesn't beg. She doesn't chase. She doesn't tolerate treatment that diminishes her value. She understands that if a man truly wants to be there, he will be. And if he doesn't, she will not force him to stay. The moment a man feels that a woman has lost herself in him, that she is no longer independent, no longer strong, no longer the woman he was originally drawn to, he begins to detach. Men are naturally wired to seek a challenge, to value what is earned, and to protect what is rare. If a woman makes herself too available, too dependent, too willing to accept anything just to keep him around, he stops seeing her as a prize. He starts seeing her as an obligation. A man doesn't want to feel like he is carrying all the responsibility in the relationship. He wants a woman who has her own passions, her own goals, her own sense of self. A woman who can stand on her own, who doesn't crumble without his constant attention, who doesn't lose herself in the relationship, is the kind of woman who keeps a man committed. The truth is, men stay where they feel inspired. They stay with women who challenge them to be better without tearing them down. They stay with women who respect themselves enough to set standards, but love themselves enough to not tolerate mistreatment. A woman who understands this never has to beg for a man's presence, because he will fight to stay. But when a man realizes that a woman is dependent on him for her sense of worth, when he sees that she is staying in the relationship out of fear of losing him rather than confidence in herself, he starts to see her differently. And once a man sees a woman as a burden instead of a blessing, his heart begins to drift. And by the time he leaves, he has already let go, long before he ever walked away. No man walks away from a woman who knows her worth. No man leaves a woman who brings undeniable value into his life. And no man ever regrets walking away from a situation where he felt drained, obligated, or emotionally exhausted. Because when a man leaves and never looks back, it's because he knows he was never supposed to stay. A man does not wake up one day and suddenly decide to leave. His decision to walk away is built over time, moment by moment, realization by realization. And by the time he actually leaves, he is already gone. Emotionally, mentally, he is detached long before he physically steps away. A woman might ask, how could he leave so easily? How could he move on without looking back? The truth is, it was never easy. It was a process. He stayed through the doubt, through the frustration, through the moments when he questioned if things could change. He gave patience, effort, and time. But at some point, he realized that staying meant losing himself. And when a man reaches that point, there is no turning back. A man wants to feel appreciated, understood, and respected. Not just once in a while, not just when things are good, but consistently. If he feels like his efforts go unnoticed, if he feels like his presence is taken for granted, if he feels like no matter what he does, it is never enough, he will begin to detach. Because a man does not stay where he feels undervalued. He does not keep giving where he is met with constant doubt, criticism, or lack of trust. Men do not express their emotions the way women do. They do not always voice their pain. They do not always reveal their struggles, but that does not mean they do not feel them. A man might seem strong on the outside, but inside he remembers every time he felt unappreciated, every time he felt like he was fighting alone, every time he questioned whether his efforts were even worth it. And once those thoughts become louder than his reasons to stay, he lets go. By the time a man leaves, he has already grieved the relationship in his mind. He has already had the conversations with himself, already imagined life without her, already built a new future in his head. So when he walks away, it is not an impulsive decision. It is a conclusion. And that is why he does not look back. A man is not afraid of challenges, but he is not willing to fight a losing battle. He is not afraid of commitment, but he will not stay where he feels like he is constantly proving his worth. He is not afraid of emotions, but he will not remain in a relationship that is driven by chaos, insecurity, or unnecessary conflict. When a man leaves, it is because he no longer sees a future. He no longer feels the fire that once made him stay. And he knows that the peace he seeks, the purpose he desires, and the connection he craves can no longer be found where he is. And that is why, when he walks away, he never looks back. Because in his mind, he already left long ago.